Another day, another Epstein revelation. So we actually have a couple things that I'm going to talk about here today. And we're going to start with this article from the Daily Caller, where a lawsuit alleges that Epstein used Bill Clinton's name to intimidate 15-year-old girl into vicious, prolonged sexual assault. So, convicted sex offender Jeffery Epstein intimidated a 15-year-old girl by using former President Bill Clinton's name, a lawsuit filed last year alleged. Epstein accuser Jane Doe 15 alleged in the lawsuit that Epstein name-dropped Clinton when he was allegedly grooming her aboard the Lolita Express, Epstein's private jet, the New York Post reported. Through the name-dropping, the lawsuit alleges, Epstein conveyed to Jane Doe 15 how powerful he was and how helpful he could be in assisting Jane Doe 15 with her future goals, such as paying for college, the Post reported. That's probably how it took so long for so many girls to come forward, as a lot of them were paid off. And using this overwhelming power he had over Jane Doe 15, Epstein subjected her to a vicious, prolonged sexual assault, the accuser said. Epstein made clear to Jane Doe 15 how powerful he was. The lawsuit filed against... Okay, this is getting a little redundant. He made a point of mentioning that he was close with Bill Clinton. The filing said that after Epstein name-dropped Clinton, he took 15-year-old Jane Doe into the bedroom on the Lolita Express, where he allegedly bragged about how women would sleep at his feet on the large mattress, comments that made her immediately think of slaves, according to the Post. That's because, essentially, Epstein was a child sex slaver. Jane Doe alleged that he continuously reminded her about his powerful connections, saying in a press conference, according to the Post, "When I chose a seat on the jet, Jeffrey told me that his good friend, Bill Clinton, always chose to sit." I think it's probably missing the word there, but in the same seat. News of Epstein's name-dropping comes after photographs obtained by the Daily Mail surfaced Tuesday depicting Clinton leaning back in an airport chair, dressed in a yellow shirt and tan slacks, smiling and laughing as an alleged victim, Shantae Davies, rubbed his shoulders. Davies, who had accused Epstein of raping her several times, told the Daily Mail that the photos were taken in September of 2002 after Clinton fell asleep on the Lolita Express on a humanitarian trip to Africa. Clinton was 56 at the time of the photos. Davies was 22, the publication reports. Documents unsealed in late July contained statements of Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre, who told an attorney that the former president visited Epstein's private island. Giuffre did not say that Clinton committed crimes, but she noted that orgies were routine activities on the island. A Clinton spokesman told Newsweek in July that Clinton had never been to Little St. James Island. Well, that is a lie. He's not spoken to Epstein in well over a decade, spokesman Angel Urania told the publication, well before his terrible crimes came to light. Clinton did not respond to requests for comment from the Daily Caller News Foundation. Now, we have another thing that just came out regarding Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, I don't know if this just came out, but it was just called to my attention. It's kind of been circling around, and this was a video.
On the stage here, we have Ghislaine Maxwell, founder and president of the Terra Mar Project, a nonprofit whose mission is to create a global ocean community to protect and promote sustainable development of the ocean. Ghislaine is easily one of the smartest, most fascinating people I've ever met. This is proven by the fact that she holds a bachelor's and master's degree from Oxford University, is a private helicopter pilot, a trained EMT, a qualified ROV, which I had to look up what that was, and a deep worker submarine pilot, in addition to being fluent in 4 languages.
So Ghislaine Maxwell was a helicopter pilot and a submarine pilot. So this kind of makes you wonder, were there other avenues for people to get onto Epstein's island? Now, I don't know about you, but not many people know how to pilot a submarine. Now, apparently she did work for this Deep Mar, I guess it was called. But typically, submarines are used by either deep sea navigators, the military, or drug cartels and smugglers. And you have to think, there's a lot of stories of submersibles being used to smuggle drugs. Well, if she was a submarine operator, then you have to wonder whether she would quietly smuggle people, over to Epstein's Island, ferry over the rich and powerful so that they didn't have to have their names on the Epstein flight log. Little St. James Island was just off of St. Thomas. Now, St. Thomas, people could fly into as a standard destination spot, and nobody would be none the wiser. Now, what's interesting is that on St. Thomas, there actually is an old submarine station. So this is not a new article, and I don't want to necessarily implicate Joe Biden in this. This was so this is a lobbyist bought tropical island from Joe Biden's brother, and this is kind of talks a lot about corruption with Joe Biden and how his brother often used his familial ties to Joe Biden in order to land deals, and he would name drop him, and also how this lobbyist, who is also an NFL referee, would also had Biden connections and profited from them. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this because I'm going to tie this back into the islands, because this is just off of St. Thomas Island where the lobbyist bought the tropical land from Biden's brother. So in 2005, Joe Biden's brother bought an acre of land with excellent ocean views on a remote island in the Caribbean for $150,000. He divided it into 3 parcels, and the next year, a lobbyist close to the Delaware senator bought one of the parcels for what had been the cost of the entire property. Later, the lobbyist gave Biden's brother a mortgage loan on the remaining parcels. The Virgin Islands land deal, reported here for the first time, furthers a pattern in which members of the Biden family have engaged in financial dealings with people with an interest in influencing the former vice president. So what I wanted to point out, let me see here. In this case, Biden staffer left the Senate in the early 90s to become a lobbyist. Both before and after the land transactions, his client benefited from Biden's support and appropriations requests. A firm the lobbyist co-funded, so let's see. The island that he bought land on was called Water Island. So here it is. Water Island is a 500-acre spit of land in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The Department of Defense purchased the land The Department of Defense purchased the land from a Danish company during World War II, using it to protect a submarine base on nearby St. Thomas. Since then, it has become an under-the-radar tropical getaway dotted with several dozen homes, where the largest beachfront properties can fetch north of $1 million. So these are pictures from the island. And what's interesting, we know that Ghislaine Maxwell, submarine pilot, and that there's a submarine base on St. Thomas that this Water Island kind of protects. So if we look here at this is Water Island right here. So you can see Water Island, St. Thomas. So you would imagine if it's protecting the submarine base, that the submarine base would be somewhere here around Charlotte-Amalie West or Charlotte-Amalie, somewhere in this bay. Now, Epstein Island, Little St. James, is right here. So you can see Little St. James Island. We could zoom in and go in to the satellite, and you can see where the temple is and everything like that. But if you look at the scale here, this looks like how far is this? Well, if you see the scale here, it's down at the bottom. Every inch is 2 miles. So we're talking about, this looks like about 5 inches on the screen here. So we're talking about a total of about 10 miles from this area, from this island where Joe Biden had a property. And I'm not saying this to implicate Joe Biden with Epstein. We don't have any evidence to really tie that. But it's just interesting that there is a submarine base here on St. Thomas. Ghislaine Maxwell was a submarine pilot, and nobody would be looking at people flying into St. Thomas. So they could fly into St. Thomas and then catch a submarine with Ghislaine Maxwell and just 10 miles over, or I don't if the submarine base is somewhere around here, 10 to 12 miles over to Epstein Island. So the flight logs that we have from the Lolita Express very well might not tell the whole story. Now, this is speculation. I understand that. So don't confuse me with trying to theorize and say, oh, this is some smoking gun where we got a lot of where we have a whole new thing to investigate. I mean, maybe it should be investigated, but I'm not trying to make any direct accusations outside of the possibility that knowing Ghislaine Maxwell was a submarine pilot, this could have been a very easy way to sort of launder flight logs, I guess you could say, where people didn't have to fly in on Epstein's plane. They just fly into St. Thomas and boom, a 20, 30-minute submarine ride later, they're on Epstein Island. So, anyways, this isn't, I think it's interesting. It should be looked at. Again, I don't know how much meat is on this, but I said I was going to cover everything Epstein, and that's what I'm trying to do. So anyways, guys, if you haven't subscribed to this channel already yet, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Like this video if you thought it did a decent job explaining something new to you guys. Also, share it if you want people to, also see this information. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Parler @RamThorburn. And if you're interested in contributing to the channel, all donations are very, very welcome. Please check out the description, and I have links to my Patreon, Subscribestar, and PayPal listed below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.